Harold and Bob, first Newmans, have entered the conversation as your next Treefolk commander. Thing is, they don't do anything besides offer great conversation until they wither and die. And I know what you're thinking. Dead is among the worst statuses I'd like my commander to have, and that's what makes the Newmans so intriguing. Get it? They die and sprout back up, returning to the battlefield, targeting a forest to give it stronger roots and the ability to tap for 3 mana instead of its normal 1. When it does get tapped, it'll also give you 2 rad counters. As we've just seen, and probably all knew, Treefolk have a reputation for being expensive creatures to cast, so having 2 extra mana in the command zone just may be the acceleration you're looking for. I think you should branch out, go out on a limb and leave your last Treefolk commander behind for a while, to spruce up that deck with these 2 Newmen who may just become the most popular Treefolk commander yet. Welcome to the channel, everyone. Today we are looking at the green spells in the new Fallout set, and there is plenty of excitement to be had. Before we move on to the Angry Grandma, if you would be so kind, hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel a ton, and you'll get easy access to all sorts of Commander content. And to make sure to stick around to the end to see my Fallout color rankings based on this mono-colored series. Lily Bowen, Raging Grandma, is a super fun card in any deck that's playing with counters. She enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters and vigilance. Not the most explosive 4 mana play, at least initially. Every upkeep, you will double the number of +1/+1 counters on Lily until her power reaches 16, in which case you remove the counters down to 1 and gain life equal to the number of counters removed. So at least 15 life, which is a substantial total. If you can make this creature stick around, you're looking at an absolute beater on offense, and with that vigilance, a stalwart defender. For a couple turns at least. And honestly, I really like this cyclical card design, not letting this creature get completely out of control and trading that off for that nice life gain payoff. The most natural fit, of course, will be in your +1/+1 counter decks, where this will thrive for all the reasons you may be thinking of. A sneaky place for it is the 9th Doctor's Upkeep Matters deck with a green Clara. If the Doctor untaps and shares the battlefield with Lily, she turns into an 8/8 the very next turn. If you've got more ways to trigger upkeeps, she could realistically turn into a tiny creature that gains you at least 15 life every turn, and that is something I can get behind. From one beater to another, Lumbering Mega Sloth is the first ever sloth creature type printed. I can't say I'm a sloth guy, I'm much more partial to capybaras, but a new creature type is always something to get excited about. And while the capybara was sadly uninspiring in just about every format, I don't think that will be the case with the Mega Sloth. It's a huge casting cost and enters tapped, but honestly, 10 counters among players and permanents in a deck designed to get counters seems somewhat trivial to turn this into a 2 mana 8/8 trampler. With that kind of rate, I don't even mind that it can't block after it gets played. If you've packed in some ways to introduce counters to this big boy, with all the counter multiplying you've got going on as well, this Sloth very well could take over the game. Speaking of counter multiplying, Power Fist is a piece of equipment that provides the all-important pathway to affecting your opponent's life totals with trample, giving a sweet payoff when you are able to punch through. You take the damage you dealt to that player, do some transmutation magic, and turn that damage into +1/+1 counters on that very creature. This is what we in the business like to call a snowball effect. The 2 mana casting cost and 2 mana equip cost are by no means prohibitive, and if you're able to get your commander out before turn 4, you can strap this on that turn and get to work. Rampaging Yau offers some flexible artifact and enchantment hate on a vigilant and trampling creature that grows based on the X mana casting cost. The X mana casting cost also is used to determine the total mana value of artifacts or enchantments you can destroy. 6 mana knocks off that Rhystic Study, for instance. I think this gets really interesting in higher power games where your Moxes and your Mana Crypts are in play, where casting this with X equal to 0 can destroy each and every last one of those powerful accelerating tools. I'm not the most familiar with that level of power, so I want you to let me and the other watchers know in the comments. Is the 3 green pip prohibitive for this being included in some or all of these higher power lists? Returning to a more comfortable territory, that 3 mana pip is still plenty, so this will be best in decks that are mono green or predominantly green that can take advantage of those pips and the counters it enters with, or the fact that it has a base power and toughness of 2 and 2. Strong Back is an enchantment aura that flat out has game-winning upside. There are so many powerful equipment and aura spells that all of a sudden are free or darn near close to free to either equip or attach to the creature enchanted with this aura. You see, equip activations cost 3 less mana, and aura spells cost 3 less to cast if they target the creature enchanted with Strong Back. All alone, it only adds +2/+2, but that amount gets added for each other aura or equipment attached to that same creature. This spell can be an immediate problem and is great in your aura or equipment decks. Strong, the brutish Thespian, is a defensive powerhouse with 7 toughness that grows by 3 whenever he survives damage being dealt to him. You also get those rad counters when that occurs, so he is certainly best in a deck where you can make use of your own graveyard. The other piece of the rad puzzle, that life lost for non-land cards milled, now gets inverted with him on the battlefield, so feel free to stack up that radiation and drink it dry. Tato Farmer, before even reading what it did, was already my favorite card from the set, and was going to be featured in this video no matter what. So let's find out together if he's any good. The landfall trigger isn't the most impressive, giving you the option of applying 2 rad counters to yourself. Seems to me, unless you're very short on life, that'll be the right play to make on account of that tap ability. Tap the Tato Farmer and you get a land that was milled this turn onto the battlefield tapped and under your control. This can make for some serious ramp, because this does not apply to only the cards you milled into your graveyard. This is any land card milled into any graveyard. If you consistently apply even 1 rad counter to the table, you'll probably get your 1 land in a rotation every rotation. Tag on a Seedborn Muse or other untap options, you're looking at anywhere from 2 to 4 possible lands every rotation, so long as you keep everyone milling. This is a fun card, and I think a good one situationally. But I have to say, from what I've seen of the Mutant Menace precon, having that consistent application of rad counters seems tough. But in a deck where you're milling yourself, you might as well keep ramping as you do it. Watchful Rad Stag is a 3 mana 2/2 with the Evolve ability, meaning that if any creature you control ETBs with a higher power or toughness, it will get a +1/+1 counter. That's fine, but this next bit is straight out of the Scoot Swarm. When this creature evolves, it not only gets that +1/+1 counter, it also creates a token copy of itself. So first evolve trigger, you now have a 3/3 and a 2/2 elk. Eventually you won't be able to evolve some of the higher powered elk, but 2 power and toughness is pretty easy to eclipse, and in a matter of turns, you could be overrun with the darn things. Well Rested is easily my least favorite art in green, at least stylistically. Sorry Brian, but but that doesn't mean the card ain't good. This is a 2-mana enchantment aura with an untap trigger that can happen once per turn. This creature gets 2 +1/+1 counters, you gain 2 life, you draw a card. I don't care what creature I play this on, as long as I'm sure it can be tapped. Whether that's because it's tapping 4 mana, a Springleaf Drum is doing the work, or I'm turning it sideways to smash. My favorite of the bunch, and where I think this is especially good, is for sure the turn 1 Mana Dork into turn 2 Well Rested, where I'm guaranteed to draw a card every rotation the pair remains on the battlefield. Even later in the game, I like this more on the less threatening creatures to make targeted removal a harder decision for your opponent. Once her power is over her base power, your opponents are going to try and remove your Marwyn the Nurturer. Despite the very awesome synergies between these two cards, enchanting her with this aura makes that removal choice even easier and leaves you on the wrong end of a 2-for-1. Might as well put it on the Arbor Elf that's going to stick around, because who's gonna Chaos Warp that little rascal? This is great in decks where there are mana dorks running around, and also great in decks with the enchantment and aura synergies. Despite it not doing anything the turn you play it, I think this is incredible in some cases and generally good enough to fit into most green decks, at least as a value stand-in as you decide on your ultimate 99. That's the video, folks. Thank you for watching. My rankings of the colors for this set, after taking a look, are as follows: green, red, white, blue, and then black. I think green and red had good, fun, and flavorful spells. White I feel the same about, with just a little less fun, with blue and black having really great individual cards, but lacking the depth. Let me know your rankings in the comments. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video if you liked the video, and as always, I'll catch you next time for some more monkeying around.